Home Assistant is expanding its connectivity offering of products today with a brand new Z-Wave controller, which promises to be the most performant Z-Wave controller on the market, laser focused on getting the maximum in range and reliability for Z-Wave devices. But theory and numbers are all well and good, but how well does it actually work in the real world? Before we get into it though, full transparency as always, Home Assistant did send over the ZWA-2 for me to review, but of course not paid. However, more importantly, because of how the ZWA-2 performs, which we are going to get into, we are actually going to be stocking the ZWA-2 on our shop, which is of course a conflict of interest for this video. So I would encourage you to watch multiple reviews on this device, of which I'm sure your sub box is full of right now, to get a full picture of how it performs to help you make a fully informed decision. For my part, I want to show you some real world testing so that you can kind of know what to expect with this device. But with that said, let's get into it. The ZWA-2 is Home Assistant's first dedicated Z-Wave product from Home Assistant themselves. Very similar, of course, to the ZWA-1, which is a Zigbee dongle for adding Zigbee capabilities to your Home Assistant server. The ZWA-2 is for adding Z-Wave to your Home Assistant server so that you can use Z-Wave sensors, relays, plugs, and more. However, unlike the ZWA-1, the ZWA-2 is more than just a small USB stick sized dongle. This is a fully fledged antenna with some serious power. Design-wise, the ZWA-2 looks very similar to a Home Assistant voice on its base, but once you screw in the massive antenna, it's quite a bit different, of course. Inside the unit is an 800 series Z-Wave chip from Silicon Labs, supporting both Z-Wave and the brand new Z-Wave long range protocol. And there's also an ESP32S3 for USB to serial. At the bottom of the unit is a USB-C port, which you will use to connect to your Home Assistant server using the included USB-A to C woven cable that is in the box. The ZWA-2 is going to be retailing for $69, nice, around 59 euros and 52 Great British pounds. And if you want to pick one of them up, I'll have it linked down in the description. Now, there is no getting around it. This is a big boy of a unit. However, for most people, it probably won't matter too much as it will be tucked away, hidden along with your Home Assistant server. And I like that they have just leaned into how big it was, and does mean that there is zero compromises when it comes to performance or range of this antenna, which we are going to test. When you do plug in the unit to Home Assistant, you will see the frosted section on top of the antenna lights up blue, indicating it's ready to set up, and the setup is a super simple process. Home Assistant will pop right up telling you to set up the ZWA-2, and it will walk you through the process of creating a new Z-Wave network or helping you to migrate an existing one. Once it's added, you can go into the ZWA-2 and there is a bunch of useful sensors and controls, including the ability to toggle the LED on top, and actually, this LED does have a neat little party trick. See, the ZWA-2 wants to be mounted flat for optimal performance, but if you tilt it over a little bit or it gets mounted on its side, it will flash yellow at you, indicating to put it back on the flat side. This is an option you can turn on or off inside of Home Assistant if you want to override it. Now, backing up a minute, you will see that during the setup, it asked if we want to set up a Z-Wave mesh or a Z-Wave long range. And that's because the ZWA-2 supports both Z-Wave and Z-Wave long range. But what does that actually mean? Z-Wave works as a mesh network, meaning each device can relay signals for other devices around your house, extending coverage. It's great for dense networks, but each hop adds a little bit of a delay, and there is also a limit as to how many hops you can chain together. Z-Wave Long Range, on the other hand, skips the mesh network and connects each device directly to your hub, which is the ZWA-2 in this instance, giving you a bigger range, faster response, and support for way more devices. but without the hop-to-hop redundancy of a mesh network. Now, Z-Wave Long Range is pretty new. There just aren't that many devices out there right now that use it, but as more devices come out in the coming months, the ZWA-2 is going to be able to handle those devices, but it can also still work with the older but still perfectly usable Z-Wave devices that you may already have. Now, I could sit here and tell you that I've been using the ZWA-2 for a few weeks and my Z-Wave network is great and it works good, but there's no real great way to show a network just working normally, you know? So I thought, why don't we actually get out there and test the ZWA-2's range and show you what it can do in the real world. First, we're going to need to head over to the unit to pick up some devices that we can actually test the ZWA-2 with. And I think I've got a couple in mind that are going to work. One of the main things I could see the new Z-Wave Long Range being really useful for is if you have like a larger property or garden and you want to have like remote monitoring, or even for like things like a relay down at your electric gates if it's a bit further away, or maybe you want to have a weather station or like a contact sensor in your mailbox and it's a bit further down the garden, and that's the kind of application I could see Z-Wave being really good for, Z-Wave Long Range being really good for. So what I thought we could do is we could put the ZWA-2 up in a building somewhere and then go maybe a couple hundred meters away and see what the range is like, and I think I've just thought of the perfect place.
I figured since we're going a bit remote, we may need a few supplies. So I brought along a few Shelly Z-Wave devices because they've got their whole range of Z-Wave products, which is pretty good. Firstly, I brought along the Shelly Z-Wave plug, which is actually not a long-range device. This one is actually just a regular Z-Wave Plus device, but I thought we could test it and see if the Z-Wave Plus devices can still reach far with the ZWA-2. And we also brought along some RGB LEDs just so we can plug them into this plug and see if everything is working, along with this battery to make the whole thing sort of portable so we can take it on the go. I also brought along a Shelly Z-Wave motion sensor, and this one actually is a long-range devices, and it's kind of one of the only long-range devices you can get in the UK at the moment. Because long-range is so new, devices have yet to come out with them, but this one is long-range, so we can test this fully with the ZWA-2. I also brought along a Home Assistant Green, as well as, of course, the ZWA-2, sort of like a portable home assistant setup that we can take about and move on the go. By the way, if you want to buy any of these products, including the Green, the ZWA-2, as well as the Shelly devices, you can find them over on our shop at shop.everythingsmart.io. Now, finding somewhere in the town that is open enough to test something like this at long range is a bit tricky without other buildings getting in the way. But I was thinking, we do have access to this place for a little bit. So what about if we came up here to the 4th floor and we put the ZWA-2 up here, and then you see that monument over there? What about if we go up there and try and turn on some lights with Z-Wave and the ZWA-2? First though, we need to plug in the Home Assistant Green into the network so we can access Home Assistant from up on the hill. It's a little bit of a tricky setup here since there is no internet, but we should be able to fudge something together. Just going to plug in the Home Assistant Green into Ethernet here, and then across over onto this network port, which is PP2 number 16. Now we need to go into the server room and patch that port in, and then kind of like bridge it across to a crappy temporary router that's in another part of the building to hopefully get internet so that we can check everything is working when we go up the hill. So now we're going patch panel 2, port 16.
15, touch panel 1, port 20. Then port 20 into the back of our crappy router.
Home Assistant set up, and we've already set up the ZWA-2 as well as paired the Shelly Motion to Home Assistant. We're just going to go ahead and pair the smart plug now. So plug this in. Hopefully it's going to start flashing, and then ZWA-2 integration or the Z-Wave integration. Add a device, and then we can just scan the QR code that's on the back of the plug. And it pops right up saying it's a Wave Plug UK. Yeah, nice. Now it's all in Home Assistant, and we can toggle it, and you can hear the relay coming on and off and the values changing. So that is all the setup. Both Z-Wave devices are now paired, and we can now test it. I've also went and created an automation in Home Assistant so that whenever the motion sensor detects motion, it will automatically turn on the Z-Wave plug, and whenever motion clears, it will clear or turn off the plug. So if I now move the motion sensor, you can see that the green LED on the smart plug has came off, and when it clears, it's also going to turn off. So that is now working, and this will also let us test like latency and speed, because the motion sensor is going to have to speak here to tell it it's on, and then the ZWA-2 is going to have to send the on signal to the plug back up the hill. So now that it's all working, we can go and climb the mountain.
Lewis, it's a small hill with steps.
We're just at the foot of the mountain, about to start the long ascent up the mountainside. I thought we'd give it a test here. We're about halfway point, so just going to press on the Home Assistant app now, and hopefully the plug is going to come on. Nice! There is a little bit of a delay because of these RGB LED controllers I'm using do take a minute to actually power on, but at least the Z-Wave side is actually working now. So we've made it to the top of the mountain, and as you can see, the building is all the way over there in the distance. We've got our LEDs all plugged in, we've got the plug hooked up, and the motion sensor is there facing away so that it is clear. We're going to try it for the first time now, and hopefully it does actually turn on the LED. So here we go, I'm going to pick up the motion sensor, and yeah, trigger straight away. The LED controller takes a little bit to actually come on because it takes a few seconds to boot up, but that is a really cool test. Even the Z-Wave Plus plug is working all the way from that distance, as well as the long range motion sensor. That's super cool because the motion sensor has to go there, speak to Home Assistant, and then Home Assistant has to send the command back to the plug to show that it's all working. So it's kind of like a two-way test. Actually, just to show you how quick or responsive the plug actually is. So you can see the ZWA-2 is all the way over there in the distance. And if you come in and actually take a zoom in on the phone, and I'll toggle the switch on, and hopefully you'll see the plug come on at the same time. So toggling the switch now, and you can see how quickly the plug actually lights up. The controller does take a couple of seconds extra, but yeah, it's actually really responsive, or at least appears to be from that crazy distance. So that's a really cool test. Let's go try another one. We came down to my parents' house, which they are renovating for one very good reason. You see that coach house that is down at the far end of the garden? Well, the ZWA-2 might be a great solution for us to get some remote monitoring or relays down there. See, I would love to be able to monitor or even turn on lights remotely from down in the coach house, but it's just too far for any Zigbee or even a Wi-Fi sensor to work, unless we went and put in a whole network setup in there, which we are going to do in the future, but not right now. So I'm wondering, can we install the ZWA-2 up in the main house and control some lights and get motion sensors down in the coach house? Let's give it a shot. So we're just going to set up our temporary green setup in here, because we actually have an access point in here with an Ethernet pass-through for the green, and we're hard up against two walls here. So the ZWA-2 is in the far corner of the house, and it's going to have to go all the way through these walls to actually reach the coach house all the way down at the bottom. And I think that'll be quite a good test of the kind of range capabilities of the ZWA-2. So we're going to just sit this right over in the corner over here like so. Wait for this to boot up, and then we can go down to the coach house and see if our sensors are actually able to connect. We just had a storm last week, so check how many branches has like fallen down from the trees. Imagine you were just like walking along and this just bounced off your head. So I think what we're going to do in here is to set up the motion sensor. Sorry about the mess in here. This is like temporary workshop and storage while things are getting renovated in the house. Actually, this machine here is like a really old machine that makes like special skirtings for the special like wooden skirtings for the house that are particular to this house, and yeah, all sorts of crazy stuff. But what I thought we could do is, so I think let's put the motion sensor up on the shelf just here so that it catches when you like walk in the door. And then we've got also our big battery bank that we had before. We're just going to plug in the Z-Wave plug in there, turn that on, and hopefully it should come on and connect right up to the ZWA-2. Let's also plug in this lamp so we can see what's happening. Okay, first test of the ZWA-2 down in the coach house with the motion sensor and the plug hooked up to a light. Let's see if it actually works. Hey! Let there be light. It actually works. That's amazing. Yeah, you can see there that the motion is detected on the motion sensor, and then the plug is actually getting some power readings too, which is amazing. And we can actually toggle. Nice. Look at that. That's pretty fast as well. There's no real delay between it actually turning on. So that actually works, but that is incredible because not only are we going from all the way up there in that corner, very corner of the house, and then if we look at the coach house itself, the motion sensor is literally right in this corner. And if you look at it, we're going through that tree just a little bit. The other impressive thing about that is that the plug, again, is a Z-Wave Plus plug. It's not a Z-Wave long range, only the motion sensor is long range. So that is a pretty impressive performance given the obstacles and the distance. Now that is super impressive, but do you want to know the other thing that makes it even more impressive is that the motion sensor is of course right here. But you see this wall, this is a full 18 inches of solid stone. So this is an 18-inch solid stone wall that the motion sensor is having to go through. But also, so the walls in this house all around where the ZWA-2 are sitting are actually a 24-inch solid stone wall, so even thicker than the ones down at the coach house. It's actually easier to see how thick the wall is in this part of the building. So we have a full 24 inches of solid stone in this part of the building before the ZWA-2 even gets to the outside world. So for you Europeans out there, I don't want to hear it. If it can get through this, and then I think it can get through the brick in your house. That's actually a lot better of a result than I was expecting. So remember, the ZWA-2 is over here and it's got to go through about 24 inches of solid stone and then about 50 meters of free air. It's got to go through this tree, which is like kind of partially blocking the signal from the coach house, and then through 18 inches of solid stone into the coach house where the motion sensor and the plug and everything is. This is actually a really cool result because it does mean that I can put Z-Wave sensors in here and get remote monitoring as well as control the light. I'm also going to install one of those Shelly Wave Pros, which will allow you to control all of the lighting circuits and everything in here from that one device. I think if you put this into pretty much any house, you're not going to have any issues with the range, and it's super handy if you've got outbuildings or that type of thing. So now we've been out and tested the ZWA-2, I was actually seriously impressed at not only how it was able to go that long distance up the hill, but most impressive to me was how it was able to go through 42 inches of solid stone way down the garden to that coach house. That is actually pretty crazy, and I would say that because it's able to get all through that, I would say that for probably 99.9% of normal homes, the ZWA-2 will probably have no issues covering the entire house, no matter where you place it. I just don't see performance being an issue for the ZWA-2. So that is my video on the ZWA-2. This is a great controller if you want maximum Z-Wave performance for your existing network, or if you've never tried Z-Wave before and you want to give it a shot, this is a great device to do that with. I would actually really love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. What did you think of the range and performance of this during the testing, and are you planning to pick one up? Then do let me know down in the comments below. I'd actually be really interested to do a follow-up video testing the maximum range even more to see where it does eventually run out of steam, because there must be a limit. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get my hands on like a long range Z-Wave plug or relay just yet. I couldn't find any in the UK. So once we have some more devices, I think that could be a fun little follow-up. So do let me know if you want to see that. I'll have links to all of the devices that I used in this video down in the description, including the ZWA-2 if you want to pick one up and support me and support the channel. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. Drop this video a like and get subscribed, and I will see you in the next video.